Okay. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining Autumn for the Day in the Life. It is a pleasure to have you guys on live. So shout out to everybody who's there on the YouTube and everybody who's there on Facebook. We appreciate you for joining, and we look forward to sharing more about product management here today. My name is Issa. I am your host for for today's or this afternoon's event. I am the program director of Awesome Urban Technology Movement, where we are in the business of getting more people into tech and diversifying that space. So if you are seeking more information about how to get trained and receive certificates or certifications, or even more information about the job market and receiving a mentor and networking, or participating in events like this, we definitely would like for you to join us and join the movement. Our sponsor here today is from the Entrepreneurs Foundation. We have Maria Brown Spence.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, Issa, for the introduction. Again, my name is Maria Brown Spence. I'm the program manager at the Entrepreneurs Foundation, where we promote philanthropy and community engagement while helping entrepreneurs build corporate cultures that contribute to their business success. Thank you, Autumn, for inviting us to the first A Day in the Life with our member companies. We are so excited to have Storable here represent on behalf of today's program. So thank you again, Issa, and thank you, Autumn, for the opportunity to have the Entrepreneurs Foundation in this space.
Definitely. And so, as Maria mentioned, this is our first digital edition of Day in the Life. For those of you who were with Autumn before COVID, you would probably remember us going into some of these different office spaces, but we feel as though it's probably the most accessible, most convenient way to continue the this event on the digital platform, and this also gives us a way to then focus on one particular area or occupation that you may or may not be aware of. So with that said, we are going to go through our event today for about an hour or so, discussing what it is like to be a project in product management. And so several different topics we have prepared for you to discuss, especially when it ties to being a person that's Black or Hispanic in that space. So we definitely want to make sure we share all the information we can. Feel free to drop your questions or comments in the chat, and we will answer them aloud. We also want to make sure that if you want to connect with us, we will share our LinkedIn or our websites will be on the last page. We want to share our LinkedIn links in the chat as well for our presenter, and then for Entrepreneurs Foundation and Autumn. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Kevin Alvarado. He is our job shadowee of the day. And so Kevin, if you don't mind introducing yourself and getting us started.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. As you mentioned, my name is Kevin Alvarado, and I'm a senior product manager at Storable. So for those of you unaware of what Storable does, we create technology products that empower self-storage operators and owners to do more. And so how, right? By giving them tools to maximize their business growth and to manage their day-to-day tasks. What that means, simply put, is that facility operators use our technology every single day to run their business. I'm really excited to be here because I feel very passionately about product management. I've been a product manager for 7 years, and I've been at Storable for 5 months, actually. So it's still relatively new. But the reason I'm really passionate about product management is because I can see the value that my team and I add to our customers' lives and to our organization on a daily basis. And so it's really meaningful work. And I'm really excited to share what that actually looks like. As we briefly touched on today, we're going to learn a little bit about what product management is. We'll also take a deep dive into the responsibilities of a product manager. And then I'd like to take an opportunity to briefly touch on what I do at Storable today. And I'd love to give you a little bit of context of what the role actually looks like in the real world. And then we'll end today's session by talking a little bit about how you could potentially break into product management if you're interested. So I'm really excited, and let's go ahead and dive right in. So what is product management? If you're unfamiliar with product management, do not be ashamed. This is still a relatively new discipline. It's only been around roughly for about 20 years or so. It's still growing in popularity every single day. In the past, people did the job of product manager, but they didn't have the title. So again, do not be ashamed. Hopefully at the end of this session, you'll have a much better understanding. So product management is an organizational function that is responsible for the execution of a product lifecycle. What that means is that you as a product manager are going to be responsible for identifying problems that your customers face on an everyday basis, and then working with your engineering team to be able to collaborate on potential solutions to those problems. And a key aspect of the role will also entail that you're going to be working with stakeholders such as senior leadership, such as sales, support, marketing, and your customers to be able to validate that your solution is solving the right problems. And then once you're actively developing those solutions with your engineering team, and I want to be clear here, you're not going to be hands-on keyboard coding. Your engineering team will do that, but you're going to be building this alongside with them because you're going to be providing the direction. And once you've actually built your product or feature and you launch that product, you're going to also be responsible for ensuring that that product is successful, that it solves the problems that you aim to solve, and that you're gathering feedback to then influence your future iteration. So it's a complete end-to-end ownership, and that's the really exciting aspect of the role. So I also want to say that the reason why organizations hire product managers is because they need someone to come in and to be the visionary. So it's going to be your responsibility to define the vision of your product. What that translates to, simply put, is that what problems are your product going to solve and for whom, right? So who's your user? What do they do on a regular basis? What's their job like? How do they use your technology? What are the gaps there? And so you're going to be responsible for creating a vision that will serve as a mission or a guide for you, your team, and your organization, so that everyone is aware of the problems that you are solving for. What's also really important to know is that a key part of your role too is going to be creating a strategy to bring that vision to life. And the strategy should really hone in on what is your product doing? What's the value that people get out of your product? What are the differentiating aspects of your product? How does your product stack up against the competitors? And then also, what are the milestones that is going to take to be able to achieve your product goal, right? And then lastly, the product roadmap. This is a key aspect of the role as well, because you will be owning the product roadmap. The product roadmap, simply put, is a high-level visual representation of the plans that you and your team aim to solve for. So it's your priorities. Your product roadmap should be pretty set in stone for the first 1 to 3 months. And then towards that, it kind of becomes a little bit fuzzy because everything is subject to change. But you own that, right? So it's your responsibility to ensure that your product roadmap aligns with the needs of your business and your users. I know that we just talked a lot about what the responsibilities are of a product manager and what that looks like. But simply put, if I can simplify it for you, it's problem solving. That's what you're doing on an everyday basis. And I really love this image here because I think it perfectly illustrates where product management lives within an organization. And you're going to be at the heart of the business, the technology, and the customer. The business means that you're going to be responsible for owning the financial aspects of your product. How is it successful? Is it creating revenue, right? How is it performing on a month-to-month basis? You're going to be seen as the person responsible for the financials. So you need to make sure that you're continuously meeting with the business side of the house to understand how your product is performing. And if it's not performing well, have command of the plan. So ensure that you can create a strategy to ensure that you get out of the area where perhaps you're not performing as well. Another key aspect of the role is the technology. You're going to be working with an engineering team to be able to build solutions, as I mentioned. And you're going to be leveraging them to tell you about how you can go about building this product, what are the risks and complications that represents, and what are the dependencies. And to me, the most important aspect of product management is the customer. This is why we're here. You're here to represent the voice of the customer. So you have to know your customer intimately. You have to understand what their job is, what they do on a day-to-day basis, how they use your product, what do they like about it, what don't they like about it. People are going to see you as the voice of the customer. I'm going to repeat that once more because it's really important that you have an understanding of who they are. Any organization that doesn't have a culture for working with your customer on a regular basis is not doing product management right, in my opinion. I'm going to stop there. I want to make sure that if there's any questions, I can answer them. Otherwise, I'll move along. All right.
Right.
Good deal. So let's talk a little bit about the responsibilities of a product manager. So we talked a little bit about, people are going to see you as a visionary. You're going to be responsible for defining the product vision. But how do you do that? It's going to be your responsibility to have a fundamental understanding of your customers' needs and the problems they face. So that sounds like almost a broken record at this point, but that's for a reason. And it's because you're there for your customer. You're building solutions for them. So understand what are the pain points that they face on a regular basis, and what are the areas of friction that you believe you can solve for with technology. So have an understanding of who your customer is and what they do. A key aspect of your role is also going to be researching. So you'll be spending time doing a ton of research in the industry that you're in, and also on your competition. The industry that you're in, I'll give you an example. I work for Storable, and we're in the self-storage industry. So that is the industry that I've taken the intention of learning as I joined the organization 5 months ago. I started to understand where self-storage was 5 years ago, where it is today, what are the challenges people face today, and where is the industry going in 5 years. This is valuable data that I can use to help shape my product vision. What's also really important is that you understand who your competitors are. The reason why this is important is because you'll get a better understanding of how your product stacks up against your competition. What does your competition do well? What don't they do well? What are the gaps between your product and their product? And also, I think it's really important that you reach out to your competitors' customers. You'll be surprised how much they're willing to share on, what their experience has been like working with them. You can use that as an opportunity to be able to create a more compelling vision for your product that can capture some of that customer share in the market. Another key aspect of the role is alignment. As a product manager, a lot of your day-to-day is going to require you to be collaborating with various members within your organization, such as your engineering team, other members of the technical organization, senior leadership, marketing, sales, and so on and so forth, and also with your customers. And it's really important that you get alignment. And what I mean by that is that they understand what your product vision is and that they ultimately buy into it. How can you do that, though? You do that by having repeated touch points with your stakeholders, with your customers, and being completely transparent on the problems that you're focusing on and being able to articulate why you're focusing on those problems. The more you leverage your peers, your coworkers, your customers, the more you'll be able to craft your vision alongside with them. So simply put, when you create a vision, it shouldn't have been your brainchild. It should be something that everyone else has helped you along the way to create. And that's how you can get alignment. That's how people believe in your vision, because they know that they played a role in it. So the next aspect of the role is actually a really exciting aspect, because it involves actually doing the work, actually building the product. And this is prioritizing the product features based on the impact. So after you've been able to create a product vision and a plan to solve those problems, your engineering team is going to look to you to provide direction. And this is where you come in and tell them what the priorities are based on the problems that you've identified that align with the goals of the organization that you work at, based on the goals that your customers have. So what problems do they need to solve and why do they need to solve them? This is where you shine. This is where you need to articulate what problem you're solving for who, and why it's important. And this is where I'd suggest that product managers lean on the engineering team to be able to tell them how. So they own the how. And what I mean by that is that they're going to tell you how they can potentially go about solving this problem. It's really important here that you really let your engineering team shine. They bring a skill set that, quite frankly, you just won't. I am not an engineer by trade. I don't know how to write a single line of code, and that's okay, because I can speak to the business aspect and my team can speak about the technical know-how, and we can discuss trade-offs, we can discuss risks and all that jazz, and that's all really important. Lastly, defining and measuring success. As a product manager, you are going to be responsible for the success of your product. And so you need to know upfront, what does success look like? What are the goals that your product has? Different ways to measure success could be revenue targets, right? You could say, on a monthly basis, I hope that we hit these revenue targets. Or you could say a way to measure success is through NPS. NPS stands for Net Promoter Score, and it essentially tells you what your customer sentiments are. How do they feel about your product? What are their thoughts and opinions about your product? This is a way that you can measure success and ensure that your product is doing what you set out to do. I'm going to stop there in case there are any questions, any comments, anything you'd like for me to go over.
I have a question for you. Would you consider it important for someone who wants to get into project management to focus maybe on a company or a set of products or maybe an industry that they already, have a knack for or some understanding for? Or do you think, does that help in the selection process, I guess, and when they're choosing you? Or does it really just matter on how fast you're able to kind of pick up, on that product and just kind of cut their learning curve a little shorter?
Yeah, so I think you bring up a good point. I think if you can find a certain organization that maybe you're interested in, or maybe there's an industry that you're particularly passionate about, it's only going to help you. Passion is a big aspect of product management. You have to really care about what you're doing and the problems you're solving for. Mm-hmm. So let's say that you're interested in diversity. There are organizations out there fighting diversity. So if you really care about that topic, mm-hmm. Product management role will become even more natural to you because you'll mm-hmm. be aware of it. You'll understand the people that are in the industry. You'll understand who they're serving. And so these are critical aspects of product management that will definitely help you along the way. But I will say it's not necessary. For example, I'll use myself as an example here. I never knew anything about the self-storage industry until about 5 months ago. Mm-hmm. I saw them every time I drove down the highway or the neighborhood, but I literally never knew anything about it. And mm-hmm. so as long as you have a curiosity about a topic, as long as you have a passion to solve problems, then you can join any organization. You just have to put in the work to educate yourself on it, and then mm-hmm. it's totally possible.
Okay.
Good deal. So we talked a little bit about what product management is. We talked a little bit about the responsibilities. I want to talk to you a little bit about what I do today. I'm going to talk a little bit less about what my day-to-day looks like because, quite frankly, it's going to look a little bit differently. Some days I'm speaking to customers. Some days I'm in meetings. Some days I'm looking at my financials. Some days, I'm working with my engineering team in brainstorming sessions. But it all ultimately ties up to the bigger picture. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm the senior product manager responsible for access control at Storable. Storable, again, to reiterate, we create technology products for self-storage operators and owners to run their business. And access control is a product we offer. So access control is a combination of hardware and software that control access to a facility. I've included an image of this self-storage facility. It's pretty standard. Think of any self-storage facility that you've seen while driving or in your neighborhood, what have you. Maybe you've actually rented a unit at one. The interaction that I'm responsible for is, maybe you could see it in this image. There's a U-Haul there, right? It's driving up to the gate. Mm-hmm. That individual in the U-Haul is going to enter a gate code that has been assigned to them by the operator of the facility, or maybe they even created it themselves. And they're going to enter that gate code in the keypad. And if it's valid, that gate is going to open. It's going to allow them entry. It will allow them to enter their unit and then ultimately leave. It sounds very simplistic, and it is. But ultimately, what we do is we provide a security to our customers so they can know that their facilities are safe and that people that are coming and going actually are paying customers or they expect them to be there. But also we collect a lot of data for them. We can tell them who came, what gate code was used, when they arrived, when they left. This is all really valuable. And so that's what I'm responsible for. I was hired to come in and define an outcome-oriented product strategy for access control and to deliver incremental value to our customers. That is a lot of jargon. Let's simplify that. So our current customer base is very large and diverse, and there's a set of customers that we support that use our facility management software that allows them to run their business. Now, some of those customers use third-party gate integrations. So that means that they outsource the gates, all the equipment to be able to control access to a facility. And if you could just move to the next slide, I'm going to articulate the problem that my team and I are solving. So these self-storage operators in the past have had to rely on these gate integrations, and these gate integrations that control their access control at their facility typically are antiquated. They're super old, as you can see in this screenshot. These are like programs that need to be physically installed into your computer and run. You need to have an on-site computer running at your facility at all time to ensure that your gate is working properly. Think about the world that we're living in today. We're in a pandemic world, right? Back last year, early last year, each and every single one of us had to leave our organization and start working from home. The self-storage industry was also impacted. That meant that the operators that worked at the facilities had to leave those facilities, and that presented a huge, huge problem because they had to previously rely on these systems that were running on their computers 24/7. Because they typically relied on people being at the facilities to troubleshoot those issues. What happens if in the pandemic where everyone's at home, if that gate breaks, that means that operator had to call somebody to drive up to their facility. Or what if they don't have anyone they can call? What if they're in Lubbock and they need to drive down to Dallas? That is very expensive. It's very problematic, and it creates a very bad tenant experience, which ultimately costs them money, right? And another problem that we're trying to solve is the fact that some of these gate systems have delayed updates to credentials. So let's say that U-Haul example that I just showed you, let's say that they just rented a unit, and their gate code that they just were given, they entered it in the keypad. What if it didn't work? That's exactly what happens on a regular basis because there's delayed updates with these outdated legacy integrations. And so the problem that my team and I are solving for is precisely this. I set out during the first few months of me joining the organization, and my team as well, this is not a one-person show, we set out to have conversations with our customers, with our stakeholders, to truly understand this problem and to be able to articulate why it's important that we address it. The reality of the situation is if we don't solve this problem, our competitors will, and we do not want to lose our customers' business. So what are we doing? If you can just hit the next slide here. So once my team and I understood the problems that we needed to address, once we understood the issues that our customers face on a regular basis by leveraging these outdated solutions, my team and I were able to hypothesize, and we created a vision that said, what if we create a cloud-based software for access control that allows our operators to use our technology from anywhere in the world, as long as they have a device that's connected to the internet, and as long as so they have internet access, they have a device that's connected to the internet, they would be able to log in through that device and be able to manage their facility. So again, I use the example of the pandemic. This is huge because this allows you to provide a service to your customers in the time that they need you the most. And these operators that we support needed to provide support to their customers as well. So this was highly beneficial to them, and they immediately bought into our vision. But that's not it. We also, because we're building this solution on top of our facility management software, which is where they're living and breathing every single day to run their business, no longer will those updates to the credentials take minutes. It's instantaneous, which means that if that U-Haul driver was given an access code that very morning, as soon as they were given that access code, it would immediately work. And we took it another level. We said, well, what if somebody went to your facility, they were a tenant, but they didn't pay their rent for months? We could cut off access immediately. So these are tools and resources that our customers can use to increase their operational efficiency and to provide a better service to their customers. And so this is what we're solving for. And what you're looking at here is a design of what my team and I are building. And so this is a very long process. I'm trying to summarize it as best as I can. But what I'd like to say is that, as a product manager, you're going to identify a lot of problems that you need to solve. And what I do on a regular basis is level setting with my customers and with my stakeholders, because we can't solve all problems at once. A big part of your role and a big part of what I do on a regular basis is being able to set the right expectations with my customers and my peers to be able to say, I understand that this is the entire problem we need to address, but we're going to take the intentional approach of solving these particular problems first. And we're going to do it well, and we're going to put it in the hands of our customers. This design that you're looking at here, I actually had a demo with the customer last night. They were in Vegas, they had a little bit of free time, and I dialed into a Zoom. The customer did as well, and I walked them through our plans. This was an opportunity for my team and I to learn from them, to take their feedback on board, and to adjust our plans based on their feedback. So product management is a long process. It requires a lot of collaboration, and really exciting work, because as you can see, I can see the value in the work that I do on an everyday basis, along with the work that my engineering team does on an everyday basis. And that's why it's incredibly rewarding. So that's what I do at Storable. These are the problems that we're solving for and how we're solving for them. I'm going to pause there in case there's anything anyone wants to ask, any questions, any concerns, any comments.
And so I think really what we all want to know is, how did you get into product management? Where did you start? Did you study this in school? Is this something that you always been interested in? How did you learn about product management? And, how did you determine it was a fit for you?
Yeah, so really quickly here, I'm looking at the comments, and there's actually a question here. Like if I just pause there and answer that question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for folks that can't see the question, it says, James is asking, if solving a problem for my customers is the primary purpose, then my competitors wouldn't be other people trying to solve the same problem. Wouldn't my only competitors be the degree in which I, my team, my business can solve a problem? If I have truly solved the problem, or solved the problem better than everyone else, wouldn't it be fair to say I have eliminated the competition? The reason why I kind of struggle with this take is because you're assuming that your product is solving everything that your customers' needs are. So by being able to do research on what your competition is doing, you'll be able to get an understanding of where the industry is heading. Your product needs to evolve with the needs of your customers, and they shift daily. It needs to evolve with the industry that you're in. And so I don't feel confident in being able to say, hey, my product solved the problem. It doesn't really matter that what the competition is doing. To a certain extent, it's not as important what the competition is doing, but you absolutely need to know what they offer, because you need to know how you differentiate yourself against them. In a conversation with the customer, they're going to want to know what you do, because they may be evaluating you based on your competitor. So if your competitor does feature A and you do feature B, you better well know why feature B is more important. And that's why I would challenge you, James, to say, yeah, focus on the problem that you're trying to solve with your customer, with your team, with your organization, but always have a sense of what the industry is doing and what your competition is doing, because you need to know how you stack up against them.
It's a very good point. Thanks for sharing. And thanks for your question, James.
Yeah, thanks, James. Appreciate the question. It's a great question. So let's talk a little bit about how to break into product. I want to be clear here. There are many paths to breaking into product. There's not one linear way to do it. As I mentioned before, it's still relatively new as a discipline. And so there's many ways that you can do this. Before I dive into what I did, I want to give you a bit of advice. It's very likely that you have certain skills that I think could be very handy in terms of being a product manager. If you're a problem solver, lean on that. Do research and figure out how you can use your problem solving skills to be a product manager. If you speak to customers on a regular basis, whether you're a technical support representative or whether whatever it is that you do, I would challenge you to say, to really listen, to observe, and to learn from the people that you're engaging with. Do less talking and really listen to the people that are describing a problem to you, because then you'll be able to shape a product that is actually meaningful. If you're a collaborator, this is where you would shine. Product management is a team sport. So you're going to need to make sure that you can work with engineers, you can work with marketing, you can work with sales support. Make sure that you're continuously leaning on that, because every successful product was built by numerous people, not just one person. So continuously find ways to work with other individuals to be able to achieve a common goal. There's also other skills like being analytical, taking ownership. This is big. A A product manager is going to be seen as somebody that's responsible for the plan and for the product. So when things don't go well, don't finger point, raise your hand and say, I understand why we didn't do quite well, but this is how we're going to address it. It's not the time to sulk. Technically adept. I don't mean that you have to know how to write a single line of code. And this means that you can understand technology, you can have a conversation with the technical team, and then be able to distill that into layman's terms and explain that to a non-technical audience. So these are the skills that I would suggest you do some research on, figure out how you can apply them if you're interested in becoming a product manager. And I see a question here from Elizabeth saying, when you say breaking into product, what does that mean? That means joining a product organization as a product manager, a product owner, becoming a product person. That's what I'm referring to. So if you're interested in the role, these are my tips and tricks to become one. What I also want to talk about is resources. It goes without saying that a computer science degree, a 4-year degree, an MBA will help you, but I don't want to lean on that too much because, like I said, it goes without saying. I want to talk about things that you can do that are kind of cost effective that will help you become a product manager. One, there are certifications out there. The Pragmatic Institute and Mountain Go Software are certifications that I took very early in my career that really helped me understand product management as a function and also how to work with software development teams to deliver incremental value. So how do you build software? The inner workings of that process is what I learned, and that's what I would suggest. It's much less expensive than a 4-year degree. So if you're interested in that, definitely look around for different certifications out there that are beneficial for product managers. If you work at a technical organization, you may find that they may be willing to invest in you taking one of these courses. So definitely pursue that. As somebody pointed out in the comment section, there are product management boot camps. There's one in Austin, and there's actually many ways that you can join those type of boot camps or organizations. There are many resources in LinkedIn. So you can join product management groups in LinkedIn. You can start to follow product managers in LinkedIn. I myself followed a product manager that really inspired me several years ago. Her name is Teresa Torres. She really hones in on customer discovery, which means like working with your customers and identifying problems that they care about and how do you build products that align with those problems. And so what I'm trying to say is that there's many different free resources out there that you'll be able to lean on to be able to to learn what product management is, to learn what product managers do, and to utilize your skill set to ultimately become a product manager. There's a couple of books that I've added here as well. The 10 Faces of Innovation is a great read. So is Inspired, How to Create Tech Products Customers Love. These 2 books were really foundational for me. They were gifts. I was given these books by product managers that really took me under their wing. These books really outline, the 10 Faces of Innovation is actually quite interesting because I'm not sure about you, but I've worked with some folks in past lives or maybe have friends that maybe have always played the devil's advocate role, right? And they always want to shoot down an idea. And this book will teach you how to work with those individuals, how to collaborate with them, and how to make sure that you're building solutions and that creativity never dies at the hand of somebody that's a downer, right?
Definitely.
Another aspect another book that I just mentioned, Inspired, How to Create Tech Products Customers Love. Marty Kagan is the author of this book. He has so many books out there that are so important to product managers. There's a lot of free videos that he has on YouTube, such as conferences that he's spoken at. This book is really fantastic because it's going to teach you how to create a product that actually excels in the market, that doesn't actually die. And the way to do that is by really building a product that is valuable to your customers, that is usable, and that is feasible to build, right? So it will teach you all of these key aspects of a product management role. I also included 2 blogs that I follow. It's completely free. Doesn't hurt to subscribe. Mind the Product and Product Talk consistently release a lot of awesome content that really can teach you a lot about the product management role and how it's evolving. And it will introduce new tactics that you can take on board and use in your everyday work. So it's a fantastic way to continuously learn about product management, and I would highly suggest you do that. So there's this question on the screen which we already answered. Continue along.
But I have a question for you. I mean, this is probably elephant in the room. For those, I know we talked about what product management is, but a lot of people assume product management and project management are very much the same. Could you speak on that, please?
Absolutely. Great question. So product management and project management are completely different. Product management refers to you actually defining, building, and launching a product, a physical product that your customer can use, be it software or hardware, and you're responsible for the success of that product. Whereas project management simply refers to a project, and it can be anything. That individual is responsible for the process. They own the process, the success of that project. Project managers have been around for ages, and project managers can come from all walks of life. They don't necessarily have to be responsible for a technical product, for software and things of that nature. So that's where that differs. Product management specifically refers to an actual product that your customers use on an everyday basis. That's the clear distinction. There are things that you can do as a product manager. If let's say you're a project manager and you want to become a product manager, there are many different things. There are many different skills that you use as a project manager, such as organizational skills, communication skills, setting expectations, working with a lot of different members of the organization, such as collaboration skills. These are things that you can take into a product management role, but they're two different functions. They serve two complete purposes, two different purposes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to touch on a couple of other things there.
I didn't mean to press that. My keyboard is a little sensitive. I was just trying to scroll up to the next column. Go ahead.
No problem. I want to talk a little bit about applying to a product manager role.
Yes.
That's something that you're interested in. It goes without saying that there are some organizations out there, think of Apple, think of Amazon, Microsoft, Google, that hire new grads that are computer science majors to take a part of a product management course. And it's a program that really creates product managers, and then they ultimately hire them for their teams. That's one route. The most popular route, though, the biggest way to become a product manager is through an internal transfer, in my opinion. And this is where I'm going to give you an example of what I did. I started at technical support role at a startup here in Austin, and I used it as an opportunity to become a subject matter expert on the product that I was supporting and my customers who I supported on a day-to-day basis. And so I worked with product management on a regular basis to share my learnings and tell them, these are the calls that we're experiencing on a regular basis. These are the bugs that our customers experience on a regular basis. And then when I had those conversations with them, I planted the seed that I was interested in product management. And I asked them, what books should I read? What are the free resources available out there? What are the courses that I can take? And then whenever the position opened up, I interviewed for it and I thankfully got it. It's not perhaps as easy as all that, but it is an opportunity. So if you work at a technical organization, at a tech company, and there's a product management team, plant the seed, leverage them, ask them questions, learn from them. And then ultimately, you may have an opportunity to become a product manager. What I also say is that if you start to look for product management roles out there, you'll see that responsibilities for the job postings typically are pretty similar. What I would suggest is when you're crafting your resume, to do not highlight your responsibilities at what you do at your current job. If I'm a product manager hiring a product manager, I already know what you do on a day-to-day basis. And so what I would say is that you should be crafting your resume to be product focused. What are your accomplishments? What did you do, right? What are you proud of? What are the outcomes that you've driven? What are the metrics that you care about? These are things that really will help you stand apart from other people applying for a product manager role, even if you don't have the experience, even if you don't have the title. The last thing I'll say is build something. This doesn't mean you have to learn how to code. This doesn't mean you have to create a product from scratch. What this means is that you have put on your product manager hat and you've identified a problem that you want to address, and then you went about addressing it. I'll give you an example. The example I have is last year during the pandemic, my friends and I took an intentional approach to support more businesses that were owned and operated by people of color. There was a ton of resources available at the time, such as like articles from Eater. There was applications already available like Eat Okra, but they weren't local to Austin, and sometimes they were outdated. And so my friends and I, what we did is we created a simple spreadsheet where we categorized the different types of businesses in Austin that were owned and operated by people of color. we've quickly found that a lot of people had the same idea, and they created their own spreadsheets that was being spread around Instagram, Twitter, and whatnot. But this just shows you an example that me and my friends saw a need for something, and we created a solution, and then we shared it around with people and gathered feedback. These are critical ways that you can set yourself apart from the pack. That's my tips. Those are my advices to breaking in a product. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you everyone for attending today. And hopefully you learned something. What I will say is if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'll add my LinkedIn here to the comments. Feel free to reach out to me. If you want to learn a little bit more about product management, I'm happy to dedicate my time to help spread any kind of knowledge that I can.
No, this has been really a great session, and I think I've learned some things on my own regarding product management. So I do appreciate you joining us, Kevin. And as we mentioned, go ahead and join us or follow us, whatever the words are for social media, or Facebook, Instagram, especially LinkedIn and Twitter. For Entrepreneurs Planet Foundation, Storable, and for Autumn. Kevin will share his LinkedIn information so you can connect with him. But I want to make sure, in regards to our audience, you covered, obviously, product management and project management are not the same. And you covered ways to break in and what that means for someone who's moving into the tech space with those transferable skills. And I appreciate you sharing those. Do you mind sharing maybe a little bit, some more details about your experience when you first started in your role of product management? I know you shared you had an example and you used that, towards your, the interviewing process, but maybe that like the first 30, 60, 90 days, that ramp up time, could you share some of your experience there and how you were able to make sure you're ahead of the, at least staying on point and ahead of the game and possibly outperforming?
Yeah, that's a great question. The 30, 60 day and 90-day timeline for a new product manager is really important. I would say that for the first 30 days, you're going to spend a lot of time building relationships. So speak to your engineering team, get to know them, get to understand what kind of culture you want to create within your actual development team. Start to speak to your stakeholders, to sales, understand how the product is performing, understand what are the challenges that sales faces when they try to sell your product. Talk to technical support, understand what are the biggest call drivers, what is the perception that customers have of your product. Speak with senior leadership members of your organization to really understand what is the vision that they have for the organization, where do they see your product alongside that vision. And then lastly, start to create relationships with customers. In the beginning, I would say stop having less ideas about solving problems and just curious about the problems they have. And then as you start going past the 30-day route, this more 60 to 90-day timeline, what I would say is really start to use your product often, because you're going to be seen as the point person for your product. So use it. Understand what works, what doesn't work. Understand what it does well, what it doesn't. And what I also say is continue to do research on the industry that you're in. Make sure that you have an understanding of the people that you create products for. Who are they? Are they technical? Are they not technical? What age group are they? This is going to ultimately help you create a product through an empathetic lens, because you're going to put yourself in their shoes. And then lastly, what I would say is get started. Get started building something. Get started building, adding incremental value. So this has been largely the framework that I've applied through my 30 to 60 to 90-day timeline as I join new organizations. And what I also will say is that at Storable, I'm really happy that they actually created one for me. They told me, this is Kevin, this is what we would recommend that you do. This is someone you should really talk to. These are all the documentations. These are all the articles that we have about your product. So I really just absorbed as much as possible. If I can summarize it: listen, observe, and learn.
Definitely. And that's some of the things you did before even the interview process, right? You went ahead and researched, the industry to make sure you're up to speed on what's going on and what possible problems and solutions that, have been uncovered there, correct? Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing with us. This is really good. Like I said, insightful conversation. I hope everyone, if you have any questions, it's a good time to drop them in the chat or in the comments if you're on Facebook or YouTube. So get those answered. I do want to bring back Maria, and she wants to share a couple of updates regarding Entrepreneurs Foundation. And then I have some updates for Autumn.
Hello, everyone. Happy afternoon again. Kevin, what a wonderful presentation. Opened my eyes to the field of product management and things that I didn't even know. So thank you again for speaking at today's event. At the Entrepreneurs Foundation, we do have a current job opening, which will also be posted on the Autumn job board. We are looking for an administrative associate, either 2 part-time positions or 1 full-time, just depending on the fit. I did drop the link in the chat, but if you have any questions, feel free to send me a LinkedIn message and we can talk more about it. Once you review the job description, if you want to post or send your resume and cover letter directly, you can send that to hr@efctx.org, but we'll also post it on the Autumn job board. Make sure you're using that resource if you are on the hunt for employment in Austin and surrounding areas, especially related to the tech field. So thank you again, Issa, and thank you again, Autumn, for having the Entrepreneurs Foundation in Storable.
Yes, this is definitely a good partnership, and we will be working together again for our one of the next Day in a Life events, so stay tuned for that. On behalf of Autumn, I want to make sure we share information about our Rethink Austin event on July 31st. We'll be posting the link here in the chat shortly, but Rethink Austin, if you remember, is our quarterly event. We had our first one back in March, I believe. And so we want to make sure that you're joining the second event. So this will be on July 31st. And so this topic will be on entrepreneurship. And so tickets will be going live, and you can go ahead and reserve your seat. It will be about a 2-hour event. And so it's really impactful. Definitely has some items that you can follow up on for the next event, for the next quarter. And then definitely spend time networking and mixing and mingling with other people in the industry, whether it be on the tech side or some entrepreneurs out there as well, and those focusing on digital equity. So definitely be sure to join us for Rethink Austin on July 31st. If there are any other chats or comments, it's a good time to drop those there. We definitely appreciate you for joining us for a Day in the Life event. As this is our first digital one, we'll be having these on a monthly basis. So stay tuned on our social media. Follow us with our newsletters. And if you're wanting to get trained and go ahead and become an Automite, that is something you can do as well. You can visit our website and go to the Get Trained tab to learn more about that process. So thanks for joining us, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
No problem.
Take care, everyone.
Take care. Thank you.